In this video, we are looking at the LG Treasure. This is the second LG device that will work with Verizon LTE with Straight Talk. I reviewed one earlier. You'll find another video of a phone that looks identical to this. That other one is the LG Premier. Again, this one's the LG Treasure. And I'll probably make another video showing these side by side because they look very much the same, yet they don't cost the same. So the highlights on this particular phone are, again, Verizon 4G LTE. You get a 5-inch screen. It does come with Android 5.1, so that's a lollipop phone. It's got 8 gigs of built-in memory, so you don't have to run out and buy one, but it will accept up to 32 gigs if you have a card. Another highlight for me is the 5 megapixel main camera and the 5 megapixel front-facing camera. Not so much the main camera. 5 megapixels is pretty standard, but the front-facing camera, it's hard to find one that's really even 1 megapixel on some of the older phones that they've offered, but this one has a 5 megapixel front-facing camera. And lastly, 1.1 gig quad-core processor, so you do get a lot of features for a phone that's only $99.99. Now this is a 5-inch screened phone, so it's not small by any means. Yet it's not obnoxiously big. This phone will easily fit in your pocket. The measurements on it are a little bit more than 5.5 in height. Width is right around 3 inches, just a little bit smaller than that. The thickness is 0.34, so it is a very slim phone. It feels very, very lightweight because of this slimness. It feels like a lot lighter than it really is, I guess. And then the screen, as I said, is a 5-inch screen, so right about there. And one of the things that I like about this phone design is that it looks very high-end, but on this phone there's a nicely beveled edge around the screen, which is very smooth, so it feels like glass. It looks, that bevel kind of makes it look like glass, even though it's not glass. This is actually a plastic screen, but it's a really nice a really well done plastic screen, I will say. These two LGs, the LG Treasure and LG Premier, are probably the best looking all plastic construction phones. They look like they're made from a lot higher quality materials than they really are. Now this phone does have a kind of like a chrome bezel going around the entire phone. And this bezel here has like a hammered finish. It's got like a textured finish, which feels kind of like a hammered finish. The back is smooth. It's all plastic, of course. It feels slightly rubberized, but not overly so. I would categorize it as a plain plastic back. There's your camera. It does have an LED flash. And this phone does feature these rear-facing buttons, so that's your power button, and that's your volume button. There's no other buttons anywhere on this phone, including the Android buttons. Those are built into the operating system, which is kind of the thing with most of these new phones nowadays. They're part of the operating system, and they kind of appear and disappear in different apps as they need to. So no buttons down here. Now one of the nice things about this phone, I would say, is the screen. So you will be able to watch videos well, you can watch videos with any phone, but in this phone, they actually look quite nice. Okay, so here's our video. We'll go ahead and take a look and see what that looks like. I really like this screen on this phone because it's nice and clear and bright. So I think it's a good phone for watching videos. Not quite as good as the other phone, which has a larger screen, but I think this one is pretty good. Now the sound quality isn't all that. I would say it's average. It is loud, but it's not what I would say a superior sound quality. It does have a fairly good sized speaker right here on the back. So overall, I think this is a really good, affordable multimedia phone. Of course, you do have your Android apps. If you're new to Straight Talk, you can get both free and paid apps. If you want to do paid apps, you will need to set up a credit card with Google. All that stuff goes through Google. If you're new to Straight Talk, none of that goes through Straight Talk. And then lastly, we'll go ahead and show you the texting interface, because I think this is kind of a slight issue, or maybe a slight issue for some. When the phone is in landscape mode, these icons are fairly small, so probably all your texting will need to be done in portrait mode, if that's something that bothers you or not. And here is your phone dialer. It's pretty standard. And here are all your Android applications. So of course you got Gmail, Chrome, your maps. And the phone is, the one thing I like about these LG phones is that their screens are always very smooth, as I said earlier. So even though they're plastic, you don't have that that kind of drag that you get on some of like the ZTEs, for example. Those are not as good as this one here. So I think that about wraps it up on this phone. I would say the main thing to consider on this phone is the fact that you can use Verizon with it, and it is 4G LTE. It's got a 5-inch screen, and it's only $99.99. So it's a very affordable phone, and it's a very nice phone, I would say, for the price. I would recommend this phone if you're looking at something that will work for Verizon right at the $100 mark. In fact, I would probably say this is one of the better phones at $100 right now that they have. But if you need GSM or AT&T, then you may need to look at one of the older models, because they're newer. The last 3 phones that they introduced did not include an AT&T phone that's quite as good as this particular one here.